I think Sony's sleeping on this. I don't think they get that it's not about the numbers. It is about emotion, but the emotion isn't irrational. The emotion's there because we don't trust you. And Xbox is making us trust them. Welcome to Broken Silicon, a gaming hardware podcast. I am your host, Tom. Today's lead sponsors are Wondershare Recover It, and then also JLC PCB, which you can get a bunch of hundreds of dollars in discounts to the coupons below for them. And then also CDkeyoffer.com, where you can get Windows 11 Professional for just $24. Dan, how are you doing?
Pretty good. How are you doing, Tom?
I'm good. I made up for being a little lazy the previous 2 days. Like I usually walk Jesse at night for like an hour or two. But I didn't want to. But today I made up for that by working outside for 3 hours in 90 degrees, mowing everything, taking out weeds, using an axe to destroy a branch that fell in our yard that was as big as a tree. But I had to because it's going to be like 100 degrees this week.
Was it one of the branches?
Actually, you know what it was
in your yard that was there the last time I was?
No,
worse.
3-4 times bigger than that. And no, actually, it wasn't in my yard. It fell in the street in front of our house. And I just actually, because no one else will do anything, just hauled it off to the side. Then, like Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter used an axe to cut that tree apart. I could have just said like Abraham
or George
Lincoln,
Washington
or George Washington. I didn't have to make it the comic book version of, even though I think that is hilarious.
We know the historical accurate version of Abraham Lincoln is the vampire hunter.
Yes, it's true. But yeah, so I've repented for how lazy I was. And it's the reason my hair almost looks a little wet, because I did just take a shower like an hour ago. So that's the exciting update going on over here. Anything exciting with you?
No, not really. I don't. No big life updates right now. No axes used. No trees chopped down. I think, given that I live in an apartment, I think the property management company would be pretty mad if I started chopping down a tree. But I mean, I don't know. If I see a dead one, maybe I'll do them a favor sometime.
I don't think you will. Let's now move on to corrections. Ayuvite writes in and says, in BS372, you mentioned that LG displays were installing software through the DisplayPort. It was actually Windows checking its driver database when a monitor is connected and then letting Windows Update download the driver package specified by the manufacturer. The manufacturer, LG in this case, included a bunch of bloatware to be downloaded to update the monitor or whatever. And so, all right. Important distinction, I guess. Actually, does that make it better or worse than them sneaking bloatware onto the monitor that then sends it into the PC through a cable? I'd say slightly less bad.
Yeah, not
cool. Because then it's just like a hacking device. Like anyone who uses your monitor gets bloatware, but it seems even more scummy because it's like you couldn't even put in the effort to like find a way to make us, like you're just like telling Microsoft to download junk. That's like how so. And why would Microsoft allow this?
Microsoft did, or I guess you could, if you're being cynical, they feigned being pissed off about it, which I saw later. But
okay. Tommy writes in, Tom, in Broken Silicon 373, you said that the Odyssey didn't use CGI, that Project Hail Mary had almost no CGI. I think both are wild exaggerations. Christopher Nolan uses a lot of CGI to enhance foundation of practical effects. He also shot primarily on film, but was transferred to digital and certainly didn't stay on analog technology every step of the way of production. And Project Hail Mary used many practical effects like puppets on top of a fairly heavy reliance on CGI. It was done well, and the story was such it did not rely solely on effects to entertain, which cannot be said of, well, certain big budget films out there right now, but I do think that you exaggerated. Yeah, I mean, maybe I got some details wrong. I will say, though, I will actually push back some here. Like, I don't know how much you've seen of the Odyssey, Tommy, but like they even like made fake little people with organs that the Cyclops actually bit that was played by a real person, and that was like it looked like people falling. That was like they made a fake small version of the people to fall and get destroyed in the cave. And I mean, I won't talk about the witch part again. That was also crazy.
Yeah, I know that there was a lot of practical effects in that scene too.
Yeah, like apparently she was actually like molding clay with skin over it or something. It just looked that good. And then also with Project Hail Mary, I actually would push back here. Look, sure, they have some CGI, but I don't think you get how little they had. I actually don't think you do, Tommy. Like, for example, the scene where they're like, I think they're grabbing like the microscopic organisms from like some moon or planet that they're going to collect to use to kill like the whatever the big monster is really in the movie. That was almost all practical, if not all practical. They like just actually had a giant screen, actually dangled him over it. That planet with the crazy rushing colors, that was practical. So I mean, I know it wasn't all, there was no CGI for any of these, but like there are scenes where I believe there was none or almost none, and you wouldn't believe which ones.
Yeah, I mean, I could believe for stuff like that from like Project Hail Mary how they would do it practically. Like, I mean, it's a bit like a 60s acid rock music video in some ways, where like they played a lot with colors. So like if done intentionally, I could see that being done pretty much all practically.
Mm-hmm. And apparently it's something they do all the time now. Like I think they've been doing that since, I remember when they made Westworld, that was a big thing. They showed them behind the scenes of like something HBO has called The Box, where you'd be surprised how many of those scenes they didn't use CGI. They just had a box with screens around them so that they could get the lighting right. And so that when people are acting, they see something next to them. It's not just some doofus in a little green spandex suit running around with a tennis ball. And then you're supposed to take, which reminds me of a very funny SNL skit, which you're supposed to somehow act well while that's going on. I mean,
oh yeah, I know. The use of green screens in a lot of movies is, I think it's starting to show. It's starting to show its limits, to say the least. That's why like a lot of like newer movies that have these massive budgets kind of look worse than old CGI because they just rely on it so much that it's like, well, this just kind of looks like a PS4 game now. Not a particularly good one.
Mm-hmm. And not a very imaginative one, like where there's real art direction. You just put colors everywhere and you're like, ooh, isn't it great? Jensen Wang, Nvidia as an Enron, writes in and says Fiji, so this is for those who don't know, the Fury X, the Fury Nano, was actually bandwidth limited based on the testing per Tech Report, rest in peace. They had Fiji as well under 30% more uncompressed bandwidth than the 290X, despite being rated for 60% more, although once they added the new compression, it was a 47% lead. Right, but, you know, and I believe what I said is it had more than enough bandwidth. They just had to use HBM to keep power consumption in line because they were still using GCN, whereas NVIDIA used Maxwell, a brand new architecture. And I actually looked it up, though. They added 46% more compute units, even with your effective number. That's 47% more bandwidth. So they added more bandwidth. Then they added compute units, my dude. And I'm going to say this, too. I owned, well, not owned, I tested and for other people and owned at least one Fiji product. None of them got the performance uplift that like Polaris got when you overclocked it, where it was like 1 to 2. So like every percent of bandwidth you add, even if you don't overclock the core, gets you, every 2% of bandwidth you add adds 1% more performance, even if you don't overclock the core. I mean, for GCN for the 7970, I think it might have been 2 to 3. Like if you added 3% more bandwidth, you got a 2% uplift. Now it trailed off, but I think the first 10%, you just get a flat 10% increase by increasing bandwidth by like 15%. It was crazy. And Vega, actually, even the Radeon 7 got pretty notable performance increases by increasing the bandwidth. Although I think in the case of the Radeon 7, they think that's just because the higher clocked reduced latency. You know what I mean? But I'm just saying, like, I overclocked my Fury. I don't remember what it was. I want to say 10, 12%. And I think without pushing the power to the moon, that only increased performance by like 3-5%. So no, I stand by Fiji had more bandwidth than it needed. I think all evidence bears that out. It's just also that they also needed so much bandwidth too because their architecture was so old and did not use it effectively.
Yeah. I mean, wasn't Fiji, not Fiji, the Fury, wasn't it like 500 something gigabytes per second at the time, or back in like 2013?
Yeah. So like half of what? Like whatever, 90, I think 4090 maybe? Like it's crazy. Well, now I have to look, because if we get that wrong, they're going to say we're stupid. Let me see. But again, a lot of the bandwidth didn't directly translate into an effective bandwidth, to be fair. Mm-hmm. Yeah, 512 gigabytes per second. I mean, that's just and if we go to the 9070 XT, we have, let's see here, just to put things in, 645. So yeah. So we're looking at like 30% more bandwidth for, I don't even know what that would be, like double, triple. Yeah, like triple the maybe quadruple the performance. So, and that's by the way, that's an important note. I know we need to get onto the stories here, but this is an important note because I keep seeing people asking me like, how will the PS6 do this with because it's a new architecture, guys. Because AMD and Nvidia tend, not always, sometimes they screw up, to make better architectures that make do with less bandwidth. And so then if you increase the bandwidth a bit but use a new architecture, that's how you get to double the performance or something. All right, let us move on to the first story here. With story number 1. Nvidia hikes GeForce prices further while advertising MSRP cards will be for sale at QuakeCon 2026, as if that's special. Quoting from Tech Power Up, first, Nvidia's GeForce RTX 50 series is rumored to see a price increase of about 20 to 30% depending on the model due to rapidly rising costs of GDDR7 memory from Nvidia's VRAM suppliers. According to ZDNet Korea, South Korean importers and distributors have already informed the supply chain about this price hike, which could reach up to 30%. I will also confirm that I have a contact in East Asia that has shown me ridiculous price raises as well. From Tom's Hardware now, Nvidia has a booth at the annual QuakeCon where the company is selling RTX 50 series GPUs at their original launch price. Well, was it really their original launch price, actually? Such is the state of the PC building industry that the RTX 50 series GPUs and MSRP have now become a come on to desperate gamers who just want to upgrade their gaming PCs for a reasonable price. And so, while console price increases have gotten a lot of attention with Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo, actually announce them, GPU prices, especially on the RTX side, have crept up silently but consistently, and they still are. And now we are getting more and more indications that a significant increase is nearing for Blackwell. We have to wonder what the MSRPs for the rumored super refresh are going to be. It would truly be comical if they claim the same MSRPs of the existing cards, like the 5080, which is supposed to be $1,000 and I believe is on average now about $1,500. But on the end of the day, all of this, I guess, makes sense. GPUs face similar pricing pressures as console. However, NVIDIA itself is arguably the best decision. Nobody else is even buying GDDR7 really anymore. And NVIDIA has the power to force memory makers to make it because they all want to sell their HBM to their sugar daddy Jensen. As we covered, though, NVIDIA is taking their eye off the gaming market. They're utterly focused on squeezing the last billions from the now faltering AI bubble, which, if you look at the news, seems to be faltering. So if you don't absolutely have to, we would say this. Like, if you can't go to QuakeCon and get one of these 5090s for $2,000, don't buy a GPU now. And if you have to, for the love of God, stop asking, me, if you should get a $1,500 5080 or wait. If you had to buy now, I would recommend you grow a brain that isn't powered by fanboyism and buy a $700 9070 XT instead. Also, at the same time, do not fall to doomerism either, because as we've been hinting earlier, this isn't going to last forever. Eventually, the AI bubble is going to burst, and then all the added DRAM, NAND flash, and logic chip capacity should create a lot of surplus production, finally driving down prices, and availability should go way up. Side note, also, we failed to report on this last episode, but I just wanted to add that this has kind of made a resurgence because some websites now reporting on it again like it's new, but I guess we kind of missed it. And technically, DLSS 5 has been announced only for the 50 series. I just think that's worth pointing out because I think that backs up something that I've been hammering. It seems like this is going to run like absolute crap. Like, you're going to need one of the latest cards for it to run at all. And I pray that NVIDIA doubles down on this stupid strategy, shows off a 5090 Ti struggling to hit 60 frames, with DLSS 5, and then AMD announces RDNA 5 with FSR 5, and their frame rates of frames that look 10% worse, in some ways just look like they have different lighting. It's like 4 times the frame rates. But anyways, Dan, what do you think of all of this?
Tom, they're going to be able to bolster that with frame gen. So sure,
It's
maybe
true,
the
but with
59
frame
will
gen.
only get
But
30.
then AMD will be ready with 8x frame gen.
I guess Nvidia just needs to come out with 16x frame gen, Tom.
But just do it. Just do 1000x. I mean, let's get it over with. Let's get it to a point where there's no way you'll even hit the amount like advertised that it can go to.
Yeah, why not? Just make as many. Just make an infinity mode where it generates as many as humanly possible until your computer lights on
until
fire.
You get called coil wine mode.
Yeah, why not?
But yeah, what do you think? I don't know how much you have to say here about the price increases.
Oh, I mean, it kind of just makes me go think back to the bygone days of when we first got into PC gaming, when I bought my first new graphics card for $120 less than its launch price. I think less than a year after.
Which would have been like
out.
what, like 30-20% less too.
Yeah.
Like it's not like it was 10% less. It wasn't $1,000 GPU.
Yeah, it went from $450. I had a 7950 one from $450 to $330 if I'm remembering how much I paid for it.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know why anyone would buy a GPU in this market unless they absolutely had to.
Yeah, I guess I'll say the QuakeCon thing. There would be, it's not like in the grand scheme of things, it's like, are we just taking an easy story to dunk on Nvidia? But it's like, no, but actually I do think it's worth highlighting like how inept they are. They're like, this is going to be great. We're going to show we care about our customers by selling cards for MSRP at QuakeCon. And then they're not thinking, guys, these cards are like almost 2 years old. This makes you look like an asshole for even selling them for MSRP. You should be selling them for less than MSRP if you want anyone to have a positive headline.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like they're going to sell 100,000 units or something at QuakeCon. Make a little kiosk with like, I don't know, 100 graphics cards or something and sell them for like, who cares, half MSRP. Like if you really want to generate a bunch of good headlines, like selling stuff at a booth at an expo is a loss leader if there ever was one.
Yeah. I don't.
Or I should say advertising. A loss leader is probably the wrong word to put there. But
so, I mean, look, prices are going up, and it isn't just the RAM. It is also Nvidia makes very little graphics cards, very few graphics cards for gamers right now. But I really think the bigger tell here is just the fact that they think selling cards for MSRP will win them goodwill tells you how little they understand their own customers. And again, guys, if you look at, I can't tell you exactly when, but I do think that the AI bubble is probably going to pop, like I keep saying, within 18 months. Mm-hmm. Maybe not the end of this year. Some people are acting like I said it was going to be tomorrow. Very distinctly did not say that, actually. I think I've said I kind of doubt that it would be like in the next week or something. But like maybe not the end of this year, but maybe early, late next year. And, if you need a new graphics card, stop being a fanboy and buy RDNA 4 or wait, because I think GeForce graphics cards are almost at the peak of their pricing they're going to get to. It's ridiculous. Like, and it feels very much like exactly this point of time in 2021, when I remember I was at the Carolina Game Show and they were like, Silver Knight PC's friend, it's a company that's a friend of the channel, was selling like around the block just because they could even get a graphics card, and they were like excited to buy a 3070 Ti 8 GB for $800, and those sold out. And it was just, I also remember doing a live stream where the owner let me make a throne out of graphics card boxes that I said.
Yeah, I remember that.
It's pretty fun. But but yeah, I mean, like, and I remember back then it was like the peak of pricing, and everyone's like, this is never going back to normal. And then within 6 months, prices had collapsed, and by the end of 22, Nvidia was freaking out about their 4090 launch. Turned out they didn't need to because everyone wanted the 4090 at 1600. But I think Nvidia actually may have over panicked, and by keeping the 4090 actually kind of around MSRP for the first like 500,000 sold. So I don't know. It feels like 2021 at this exact point in time in 2021 to me again. And don't go get excited to get some $2,000 card when I do think things will be different, within 18 months.
Yeah, I mean, it is almost a weird thing at a certain point because what people buying 5090s are, ironically, I feel like the people that probably upgrade every generation more often than not. So it's like, I guess 18 months is a very long time for that upgrade cycle, but for an upgrade cycle for that type of person. But at that point, I guess, why are you even asking for advice? Just you're going to buy the most expensive thing. But
yes. Yeah, the 5090 is not the 4090. It's just a very different situation. And by the way, I want to point this out again. I hammered this in the loose ends. And Jar can put these on screen. Just understand, too, if you want to get a 5090, it only makes sense to get if you play without DLSS on or with DLAA on, and you play below 100 frames. Because, and I'll have Jar put this on, the 007 First Light, the 5090 gets like 93 frames, the 4090, 70 frames, and then the 7900 XTX, 56 frames. So you're like, okay, well, it's like, 80% more performance. Is, you're paying like 3, 4, 5, 6 times as much, but it is a lot more. If you make the native res 1080p, it is now 176 frames for the 5090, 168 for the 4090, basically the same performance. And 7900 XTX is 153. That is how bad NVIDIA's CPU overhead is. And remember, even in 1440p, which would be quality DLSS, just remember that, guys. The difference is like 40% in performance. The graphics card costs 3, 4, 5, 6 times as much, depending on how much more of your MSRP you're paying. Just remember that if you want to get a 5090. You better be playing in path tracing at 60 frames in 4K or in 8K. Because if DLSS is on, your card is not remotely as much faster than AMD cards as you think it is, especially if you're aiming for frame rates above like 144, 165 hertz.
Yeah, I mean, that does just become an increasingly more relevant thing, especially with whatever we see next gen, I suppose. But like, I mean, even this gen, I just imagine if AMD were able to make a bigger card than the 9070 XT, or decided to make the bigger card, they could have made them look goofy, assuming it would have worked out well. But
Jensen Wing writes in, when they first showed DLSS 5, they wouldn't leave it on when moving. This is interesting, Dan. I hadn't thought about this, but he's right. They always showed Grace standing still. They showed people standing still. And he goes, and they would turn it off and then make someone walk somewhere and then turn it back on. Now it has very slow shots with some butterflies, which are hard to see any issues with artifacts. Is DLSS 5 even working in real motion yet without breaking context and showing things generated noticeably differently? P.S. I'd also like to note that the pre-rendered AI video from CES couldn't hold context for even more than a few seconds. I hadn't thought about this, but he makes a very good point. There's no point where they turn on DLSS 5 and like show Grace fighting the butcher in the early part of the game. It's always she's standing still. It's a few seconds at a time, and then they move her. That is weird.
I mean, it's the same thing you see with like all those AI generated videos that get posted to Twitter all the time to like show off
or
how
YouTube,
impressive AI. Yeah,
although YouTube's kind of cracked down on them, actually.
Like to just show off how impressive AI is, though. Where like AI like generated movies have a very specific look to them a lot of the time, and it's not because they even like the AI look necessarily. It's just because to make like a usable 2-minute clip,
they're edited like a Baz Luhrmann movie, like Moulin Rouge, where they're just like cut because they can't keep the camera view for more than a little bit,
Yeah, if Baz Luhrmann also had no talent, but
yes, exactly. Yes, this isn't a hit at Baz Luhrmann, of course. Well, a few of his recent movies, he might. I will say,
I haven't. I wasn't super interested in the Elvis movie.
Yeah, I guess that one probably performed well, though. So who am I to really judge? Anyways, though, let's not get into our concerns with Elvis. As interesting choices he made throughout his life with some of his relationships. Very interesting choices, yeah. Very interesting ones indeed. Are you Momo? Let's see. Well, let's move on then. All right. We're talking about Elvis, and who played Elvis, Dan?
Oh, Butler.
Yeah.
Austin Butler. Yeah.
Yeah. We don't need to get into our Austin Butler Elvis impressions, which me and Dan do for fun around each other all the time. Mama. All right. Let us move on then to story number 2. Look, let's be honest, storage is really expensive this year. And so if you can avoid buying more of it until prices come down, you really should. And that includes if you have a catastrophic data loss event or it looks like your drive is breaking, instead of going out and buying a new piece of storage immediately, you should really try to recover that data and recover your drive. And you can do that with today's sponsor, Wondershare Recover It. Look, it is honestly one of the worst things that can happen to you as a person. You know, you shoot a bunch of stuff and then suddenly something happens and it feels like everything's gone. But it doesn't necessarily need to be gone. And that's where Recover It comes in as a natural solution to this worry. You see, if you think you've lost data, what you should really do is just stop using that drive immediately to avoid overwriting the files first. And then open up Wondershare Recover It. Recover It can scan for lost or corrupted files from solid state drives, hard drives, SD cards, and even formatted storage, going into that formatted storage and trying to recover things that you thought maybe you accidentally deleted or someone else did. It can often recover those even. Also, it is incredibly easy to use. Just check Recover It's high Trustpilot score, and you'll see that it's at least partly due to the fact that it is very easy to use and everybody says so. And so that's really what you want though, right? After a data crisis, you know, you're going to be stressed out already if you thought you lost everything. And so you should really have the most easy to use interface that can restore data standing by so that you can restore it with one click. And well, again, that's Wondershare Recover It. So one more time, before you go out and buy new storage after a data loss, it's definitely worth trying Recover It first. And you can do so below for free. You can go down and download the app for free to try it out. And just remember for the future that it's free to do so. You don't need to buy some other app and you don't need to buy a new SSD right away. You can download Wondershare Recover It for free, scan your drive, and see what files are recoverable before you pay somewhere else. $9050 8GB and 4GB launched. Quoting from Tom's Hardware, preliminary testing from Japanese outlet GDM puts the RX 9050 8GB up against the RTX 5050 in a matchup that sees AMD's offering lose by quite a big margin, actually. The 9050 is fine on its own, especially if you're limited to 1080p gaming. But in the head-to-head, if we're actually talking about relative performance, it does leave a lot to be desired based on its roughly 30% slower frame rates average across various titles. Now, quoting TechSpot, I believe this was Tim, too, who wrote this. The RX 9050 itself will be faster and more feature-rich than of the RX 6500 XT. This test is not intended to claim it wouldn't be an upgrade. The issue, though, is the decision to sell a new gaming card with just 4 gigabytes of VRAM in 2026. Current games already exceed that capacity at even low settings, and the situation will not improve as more demanding titles arrive. I'll add this as well, let alone in 1 year when next-gen consoles come out. So yeah, well, Nvidia is taking their eye off the ball. AMD is fighting hard for market share, so hard they have chosen to allow OEMs to fleece grandmas buying PCs for their grandchildren with a useless GPU. Because really that is what the 9050 4GB is. Look, the 8GB version at least serves some purpose, maybe. At least it can hoover up the bad yields of Navi 44. By the way, Dan, it has only 16 compute units on a 128-bit bus. And the 4GB model is cut down to a 64-bit bus. Yep. Yeah, okay. But the 4GB version is really a pure scam. It can game well in esports, I guess, simple titles and older games, but an Ampere or RDNA 2 card that will probably be valuable for far less can do well enough and probably give you enough RAM. But the 9050 4GB, it's RDNA 4, so it's presenting itself as an upgrade. And sadly, this can fool many normal customers into wasting money on pure e-waste. Yeah, I mean, this actually kind of shocked me. Even NVIDIA and laptop, and you have one of these, right? Like, is giving 6 gigabytes at least to the 3050. It's very bizarre to me that they're cutting it down to 64-bit and giving it 4 gigabytes instead of 96-bit and giving it 6 gigabytes when everything I've been told is that actually GDDR6 pricing, though it has gone up a little recently, it's about to come back down, I believe, as well, is like far, 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 far less constrained in supply than GDDR7 or even DDR5 is apparently. Like per gigabyte, it's one of the cheaper options. Like to not give it 6 gigabytes is just beyond odd to me.
This is really, if I'm not misremembering, is this like the first time AMD has really gone for like this? They're just selling a completely different card with a different capacity under the same name. Like,
I mean, I don't know. I think they almost launched a 9070 GRE 16 and 12 gig, but as far as I'm aware, they have not launched the 16 gig yet. So it sounds like something they've considered before. But even then, you know, you look at like, that bandwidth difference isn't nearly as stark as 64-bit from 128-bit.
Yeah.
And the ability to even fit the game in the RAM. So it's, again, 6 gigabytes is like, but you go, I don't know, maybe like honestly, you have a 6 gigabyte card. If you crank up DLSS and turn it down to 1080p, I've used your laptop. You could play almost any game still. Like, but you just really have to turn down settings. But it's a 3050, so you'll probably be turning down settings anyways. But 4 gigabytes does not work anymore. Like full hard not recommend. It does seem like this is just there to trick people.
Yeah. Like what I was initially getting at is this should definitely just be called a 9040. Like if it has half.
Oh, yes.
If it has half the bandwidth.
Or honestly, 9030, I would call it.
Sure. Why the hell not? I'm a bit annoyed that both AMD and Nvidia have pretty much gotten rid of like those 30 and 40 positions in the market where it's like almost below entry level. Like that is a part of the market that's kind of worth servicing, I think.
Yeah.
And I would even say right now, I think it's kind of worth servicing, which like this is me positing a completely different reality than what AMD did. So like this isn't an attempt to defend AMD's decisions here, but like I could see them wanting to release like a really weak 4 gigabyte card, and it like me being like kind of okay with it if it's like expressly advertised as like an esports Fortnite thing, because there are
video output with like the modern features.
There are a fair number of gamers that like just want to play 10-year-old games at this point, and like at that point you really are kind of just at a replacement level for your graphics card. Like it's just, I need to buy a new one when it breaks, and if that's the piece of the market that's occupied, I would be more or less fine with it. But yeah, like advertising this as an actual gaming card, putting it in gaming pre-builts or OEM PCs is completely misleading on what this thing is, especially given that they're calling it a 9050. It's like I have my problems even with a 9050 8 gigabyte too, based on like the benchmarks I saw. But like I think you can at least call that a gaming card still.
Yeah. No, that's a very fair point as well. And by the way, the distance, the effort being put into not saying something as low end or entry level is pathetic. It's insane. Like Nvidia cut down the 3050 more and then called it a 2050 instead of the fucking 3040. Nvidia, it's not a 2050, it's a 3020. Call it the GT 3020 like you used to do. That's okay. And it only had 4 gigabytes. Stop pretending this is anything but entry level. Like this is like the GT 1030 from Pascal, which was still, I think they found, as strong as like a 750 Ti or better. So it's like, yeah, look, if you're just replaying Oblivion over and over in like League of Legends, then it would make sense if you're like, you know, whatever GT, I don't know, like 620, 630 broke, and then you get the 1030. That's fine. It probably doubled your frame rates as well, and uses even less energy. But that's what this is, and it is misleading to call it a 50 class. It just is.
Yeah, I mean, with like this way they're going with shrinkflation for how they name their products, like at what point is everything by AMD or Nvidia, like 10 years from now, are we just going to be at a point where everything is an 80 or 90 class card? Because that's like
the joke we made after they announced the like 4080 12 gigabyte. We said then there will be the 4080 8 gigabyte, the 4080 6 gigabyte. Yeah, like
at a certain point, why not do that? Like the 90, like I feel like the 50 class of card back when like that was a popular card to get as like a true entry level, like it was kind of the top of like entry level, bottom of mid range, I guess, depending on how you quantify or how you view it. And there's also nothing wrong with having a class that's like entry, or hell, you can call it below entry level, where if you want to, where it's really only there to play old games. Like that's fine for that to exist. Just name it properly. And obviously price it properly, so you're not confusing people because it gets really scummy, and at a certain point, I do think like this almost amounts to false advertising, if not false advertising. Like it's a completely different card. They're showing off this card, like playing the 8 GB version and small asterisk playing the new 007 game, where like the 4 GB version of that card just isn't going to play the new 007 game. Like it's just not going to, or it's going to be completely unplayable. Like this is one of the slimier graphics card releases I feel like I've seen in a while.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny too. Some people would argue, well, like an automotive parallel would be, well, there's like a V8 Mustang, and then there's the 4-cylinder with the turbo, and it's like, yeah, but it's still pretty fast. This would be like if they then put in like an inline 3-cylinder, and then like 2 of the wheels were fake, and there's actually one back wheel holding up a tricycle.
It's actually a weed whacker engine.
Yeah. Well, there are electric lawnmowers that are just weed whackers they taped wheels to. I did have one a decade ago, and I lived in Peoria, and I'm not kidding, it lit on fire multiple times. Seemed like a safety hazard. Techno writes in, any reason why AMD is releasing a 9050 with 16 CUs and a 64-bit memory bus? Yields and bins for such a product would likely be below 5%, unless it's using cut-off edge silicon on a wafer. Yeah, maybe, I don't know. But, I mean, look, I'm not going to defend the 64-bit thing, but like the cutting the CUs in half, going from 32 to 16, this is common, honestly. Nvidia does it all the time, where they just like cut a 2070, even 6 and half or whatever it was, right, to equal a 1650. And it's because, you know, once you make like 50 million GPUs or whatever it is, Nvidia will make that many of some of these dies. But like, even if it was like 20 million for AMD, it's like, well, yeah, but all right. So let's say it's 20 million. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and then multiply that by 0.01. You still get to 200,000 GPUs. I mean, you know, so like that's why you do this, because 200,000 is enough to support launching something to an OEM to get a contract. And I think Carbon Cry pointed this out in the write-up. Like, this is them courting OEMs with something Nvidia doesn't really make anymore, like some like thing the OEM can probably buy from AMD for $100 or something to just throw in the desktop and finish it. That's why, and there will be some yields like this. And actually, I had an Nvidia contact of mine once explain to me why they harvest some of these things down so much. It costs money to bin and then market and support different variants of a thing. So once you get, like, I don't know what the 9060 XT is, all 32 compute units. And then I think there's like a 9050 or 9060 non-XT that's like 28 or something, or like, I don't know. Like, at a certain point, though, like, and is there a 9050 XT? I apologize, everybody. Just want to make sure. Does that exist? No, there's not. Okay. So the reason you cut it in half is just because you don't want to bother segmenting every little thing. You're just going to go, this only makes sense to sell for bargain bin. Because like the 9060 is already at like $300. So what are we realistically
going to create? Like 5 tiers that are like that have like $20,
220,
like,
yeah. No, you're gonna sell this to OEMs for like again, like I said, probably like $100, 150 at most. And just to save, you just take all of the worst yields and you just cut these exact same components here, and you know it will work. That's why they do it. Nvidia does it. It's not as weird as you think. It's just understand this is like a thing that they're launching over a year, almost 2 years after the launch of the 9060 XT. At that point, maybe they've saved up enough bad yields that they can do. Here's one $200,000 drop, 200,000 quantity drop of this thing. All right, let us move on to probably the most exciting story of this news cycle, at least in my opinion. Story number 5. RDNA 5 leaked to at least be partially UDNA, shares global L2 with CDNA 5 as well. As tends to be the case, we need to look into the future to find a positive GPU story. As good as Radeon salespeople are at snatching embarrassing defeats from the jaws of victory, they are yet unable to tarnish their future products until they've launched. And that brings us to our latest RDNA 5 leak, which is really more of a clarification or addendum to previous leaks. See, we've recently analyzed the CDNA 5 architecture after AMD's AI Summit unveiled it. And with our new information and newer quotes from sources, we can now point out that RDNA 5 already kind of looks like UDNA. From the CDNA side, at least, MI455X is switching to work groups, just like their gaming cards have been using for years. And even Wave 32 from prior GCN-derived CUs and Wave 64. We also see changes aligning with our RDNA 5 specs, namely the move from large Infinity cache pools to a much smaller global L2 cache. In fact, last week we additionally leaked proof that RDNA 5 is literally behind the scenes calling their L2 global L2. This shows that, as one source put it, RDNA 5 could be considered UDNA 1, and AMD may choose either naming. Or if I had to guess, it's called UDNA behind the scenes, and they'll come up with some new marketing name. God, I hope it doesn't involve AI. This will likely mean that AMD will have one ISA across its GPU products soon, which will make ROCm development much faster and easier. Now, we should not expect a 100% same architecture. Heck, even CDNA 5 itself has an AI version and a different HPC version that focuses on FP64. This will be closer to what Nvidia is doing right now, which has specialized architectures like the A100 is called Ampere, but it can't play games, but they're still close enough that they get a joint software stack. So the abandonment of Infinity Cache does have deeper causes and implications, though, worth highlighting, like was done in the latest live stream. So the new L2 has higher bandwidth and more ports, which means, in very broad strokes, it can move data to more places at once. This is useful for two workloads in particular, you guessed them, AI and ray tracing. So this is really further confirmation of the L2 replacing the larger but narrower Infinity Cache, and further backs up our leaks on RDNA 5's insane ray tracing performance. And also the insane specs of that lineup, including a 200 CU monster and everything else that was reported in general. You can now take these RDNA 5 leaks to the bank. CDNA 5 confirmed half of the specs we put out last year. All right, Dan, what do you think?
I mean, I'm excited for AMD to hopefully reach true parity with as far as ray tracing goes on their gaming cards, and I do think RDNA 5 or whatever,
or even
they end up
surpass Nvidia. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the generation where they really need to do it. Where I think we're going to be getting to a point when these cards are out where you really might start seeing games that like leverage full ray tracing or path tracing in like an actual usable way, on like this weird kind of, I don't know, weird updates we get from like Cyberpunk 2077 every year, where it's like that Cyberpunk 2077 a lot of the time kind of feels like a demo for Nvidia's newest technologies at this point, even if it's not really usable or practically usable, I should say. But I do think by this time, by next generation, they're actually going to need to get there with it and be up to snuff with Nvidia as far as ray tracing goes, because I think it's a pretty unignorable feature now, but it's truly unignorable by then.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't know what really else to say except that, and this is again something I focused on for a long time in the newest live stream. I'll have Gerard put this on screen here. I have this new RDNA 5 GL2 leak. I pointed out that, and I just think this is kind of fascinating. Like, you have these old documents that I didn't realize it. I also had a quote from a source that said GL2. So said the PS6 is going to have 10 megabytes of GL2. And I just removed the G from the leak. So I was like, I don't know what the G stands for. I'm just going to call it L2. But there you go. It's global L2. And this is very notable because in the latest simulations I have, it's like AMD and Sony expect the PlayStation 6 to be 2.5 to 3 times faster than the PS5 and raster, so like double PS5 Pro and raster, 6 to 12 times the base PS5 and ray tracing. God knows how much more in AI stuff, maybe 100 times. I don't know. And it's like, and that is with no Infinity Cache, a 160-bit bus, and going to 10 megabytes of global L2. And they simulated. I have this doc that I showed part of it for the first time, I believe, during the live stream, where they had all of these different variants, and it had 48 compute units, not the 54 they selected, meaning they decided we can even fit more and it'll work well. And then they had 16 megabytes of L2, and then between 30 and 40 megabytes of infinity cache additionally, and then 28 to 32 gigabit per second. It was interesting. They showed benchmark simulations of each version, and they decided not only do we not need any of the infinity cache, but we can
10.
move it down to 10 megabytes of this cache. They did go with the fastest RAM option, though, so they seem to think that's helpful. And yet they're going to get to more of a performance uplift than any of their earlier simulations. So RDNA 5's cache is nuts. I mean, I'm sorry. Like, there's no way around it. And there's a chance that like big RDNA 5 could launch with 200 compute units or something and have like half the L2 the 5090 Ti has, or like substantially less. And if it manages to like crush it in performance, it's like, what an accomplishment. Good Lord.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing there's always weird idiosyncrasies, I guess, from specific game performance. I wonder if that would like cause weird underperformance in any games. Hopefully not, but I don't know.
I kind of doubt it. I mean, I don't, this is just me completely speaking out of my depth, Donnie, but I would think that maybe in like 8K it shows up, in the lower res you go to, the more the cache hits stick to, but I would suspect it'd be fairly consistent until you go to like extreme scenarios. Techno writes in, do you think they're doing UDNA after CDNA 5? Because they think the AI crash is likely to happen about then. And if that happens, they need an architecture where they can modularly turn AI products into gaming products. I think this makes sense just for AI support in general. I would couch it less in, we're Nostradamus and we perfectly predicted when the AI crash will be. And they more so realize that there's probably going to be a consumer boom 5 years into an AI bubble. And if anything goes well at all, and at a minimum, they need to have something that's really good at gaming and AI, because it costs so much money to make different architectures. And this is the generation we're going to have consoles, right?
Yeah.
And Mark Cerny seems to think that AI will be a key part of differentiating the PS6 to PS5. So for those reasons alone, I think they would have a more modularly consumable architecture, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I mean, they still seem, at least based on their last keynote they gave, they seem pretty enthusiastic about AI. So I don't think it's like, I think, yes, this is a good time to have more consumer options available, but I don't think they were like, we know the bubble will pop then or something, and then anything they seem to think the opposite, or certainly aren't betting on it short term. We'll see how that turns out for them. All right, let us move on then to story number 4. Xbox Positron confirmed beta is supposedly coming this year. Now, quoting from Windows Central first, Xbox Positron is a system designed to help gamers convert disc-based games into digital licenses. If those games support Xbox Play Anywhere, and by now about 50% of new releases do, then you'll also get the PC version of any Xbox X and S disc-based game that you connect to your Microsoft account. Sources suggested to me that Positron is expected to be revealed sometime in August as Microsoft works out some of the finer details. It won't support every single game, of course, on 360 or even Series S or Xbox One, but it will support a significant amount of titles pending licensing hurdles and agreements with publishers that Microsoft is working through behind the scenes. Now, quoting from IGN, Digital Foundry's John Linneman says sources have told him that Microsoft is planning to continue support for physical game discs with the aim of prioritizing them for backwards compatibility reasons, although he has clarified since that he's not sure if they will stick with this plan, only that he knows after the behind-the-scenes Asha Sharma reset that they did want to do this. All right, so now to be clear, Xbox Positron's program has been rumored for a while now, but at this point, we have to say that we have a pretty complete picture and enough people talking about it, including a couple of my contacts, to say that we do think this is happening, in line with Xbox's announcement of bringing back old Xbox games to PC via emulation, akin to the Nintendo Virtual Console. Positron is another part to strengthen the Xbox ecosystem and try to keep players away from upgrading to PlayStation 6. Positron is a system that will transfer game licenses from disc to digital. A gamer will put their disc, supposedly, in a prior gen console, like an Xbox One, link it to their account, and then they get a digital copy they can use on Helix or later. And if someone else were to take that disc and put it in a different old Xbox, the license would be pulled from the original person and given to the new account. However, it must be noted that as of now, despite there being ample evidence of Xbox working on some sort of solution for 360, and obviously the original Xbox with their
literally having 4 games supported on it. It is currently limited to Play Anywhere games from what we can tell. And that's almost certainly because the biggest hurdle is going to be something we've talked about: legal. The publishers or current owners of the games have to agree to the process. This all makes a lot of sense. So the big question is, though, why didn't Xbox already reveal Positron? Given the trouble Sony is in, Positron could have huge PR impacts on them, even if announced in vague terms or with a very limited early slate of eligible games. If we had to guess, it's because they really want the initial rollout to be flawless, to maximize the damage they will do to the PlayStation's momentum. And also, they probably want to have a decent amount of games ready. Although, to be fair, new friend of the pod, Jez Corden, insists the beta should start as soon as this month. So that's probably soon enough to maximize the Backlash impact anyways, if it does get announced in August. So yeah, Dan, I remember there were rumblings of this for a while, but you answer me this, because this is how I felt. Until I got my own info and until I saw more and more people, like people at Digital Foundry just openly saying it's happening, I was like, is this a pipe dream? I mean, that sounds cool, but I don't know if to put any stock into this rumor yet until we have any proof. Is that how you felt about it originally?
I mean, yeah, basically, I guess. I think if Microsoft can actually get like a large enough number of like legal agreements or licenses, or I'll just say legal agreements with like the developers and publishers of games to put this out, even in some very limited quantity, like have some big third-party games on there too. This would be a huge PR win for Microsoft. And looking at it less cynically, I think it would be at least a consolation prize for consumers. I'm sure a lot of people would say a pro-consumer move because it's still hearkening the end of physical media, which I know a lot of people would still be mad about. But this is at least some gesture that it's being done in good faith on Microsoft's part, at least.
It's like I keep saying, you can't just give us something. Like, I know we would prefer to have discs supported forever and the used market thrive as much as it ever had, as much as it was in the past forever. But like, we understand things are going to move more and more towards digital. But if you're going to make it, if that's going to happen, can you give us something? And giving us something like it sounds like they're going to do here. And I did see also basically what the Digital Foundry guy said is it seems like there will be some optional disk drive for Helix. So at least you can play all your own games. Like, I just don't get why, and we'll get to the Sony side of this in a second, but like, they can't try to give us a few things. Like, okay, disk is slowly going away, but we're not going to make you throw them out. You can put them in the future consoles. You can still play your PS4 games on PS7. Don't worry, keep reusing the disk drive. We're not going to keep making disk drives, so eventually you might have to buy one off eBay if it breaks or something. But we're not going to force you to throw them out. And, the disc to digital thing, now all these games are on your PC. You didn't have that before. That's cool. You're getting something for letting us take something from you. So it's a bit of a partnership feel. If they do this, I don't know why Sony can't do that, but whatever. We'll talk about that in a second. But if Xbox does this, I think this could be a huge PR victory that's hard to quantify short term. And I think that Sony is grossly underestimating.
Yeah. I do wonder how. I always wonder how big of an impact like backwards compatibility is on this conversation. Like, I think backwards compatibility is this thing that gets, like, when there isn't true backwards compatibility, gets annoying when you talk about it. But I'm curious how many people care about it, or how many people actually use it, and how many people feel like they care about it. Like, I mean, I would like to see a continued future where it kind of feels like we were promised it with like the PS4 and Xbox One. Like, going forward, we're going to have backwards compatibility, and like it kind of feels like they reneged on that a little bit.
Or Sony wants to.
Yeah. I shouldn't say they. Sony reneged on it. But I do wonder. I wonder how loud the consternation is versus how many people will care about it long term, I suppose. But I don't know.
Need a quick, reliable, and affordable PCB for your next project? Well, JLC PCB's full stack ecosystem makes it seamless, taking you from 1 to 4 layer designs to fabrication and SMT assembly under one login. 1 to 4 layer PCB start at just $2 at JLC PCB as well, and are backed by A-grade material, stage-by-stage AOI, and flying probe reliability. You get prototypes in as fast as 24 hours, global delivery to over 180 countries, and an engineer-friendly instant quoting process. So if you want to support Moore's Law's dead and actually save some money, new users can receive $123 in coupons. So check that out through the link below. And by doing so, you are supporting the channel just by clicking through that link. But of course, supporting more if you use one of those coupons at JLC PCB today. Well, so what I would say is, and tell me if, and again, we can't prove a counterfactual,
True.
But I mean, don't you think if 1 week after the disc announcement by Sony, they come out and say, again, Mark Cerny comes out and he says, we hear you, know that we didn't make this decision lightly. And just to be clear, if we stop making discs in the future, it doesn't mean we're taking away your existing discs. And there's going to be some perks to this. Literally, if he just said that, I think most of the backlash would have gone away until they spoke again.
I mean, Sony's continued silence on this is just going to get louder and louder. You know what I mean? Like, and Microsoft, I do think, needs to capitalize off of it as soon as they possibly can, because Sony is going to respond at some point, I think.
Right. You think they will be forced to do something.
Well,
and
yeah,
if
they have
Microsoft takes all the goodwill eventually. I mean, in the beginning. Well, and this is the thing, too. I think Sony underestimates that if Microsoft successfully, like Carbon Cry put in the write-up here, all Microsoft has to do is have some games come out and say these games enough to fill up a billboard so it looks like it's all of them. Like as a background while they're talking, like Asha Sharma's talking to the camera behind her, all the games scrolling past her, or behind her. All she has to do is say games like Assassin's Creed Valhalla, games like, like whatever. And it goes through this list, like Gears of War, just keeps going and going and going. These games will work on the next gen console. Don't be afraid to buy them now. Buy them now. You'll get them on the next gen. And I think that's all they need to do. And people will go, oh, I'm not buying more PS5 games. I can get them on Xbox and get it on the Helix. And Helix is supposed to be faster than the PS6, according to rumors. And again, no, it's not going to make all PlayStation people flip, but it might make 10, 20% of them. And that's tens of millions of people.
Yeah. I do wonder what legal hurdles are going to end up showing up for them, because I'm curious if what ends up happening is like, I don't know, just for example, they're able to secure like a really big deal with Ubisoft. So like,
which it seems
EA
like they will
games are mysteriously missing or something like that. But I don't know. Like, I mean, I guess this also is the time where Microsoft could probably leverage the massive portfolio of studios they have now with like Activision. Like you could get a lot of AAA. You could get a lot of big AAA, what are viewed as third party, like classic games like Call of Duty 4, stuff like that advertised on it too.
Yeah, all of the Fallouts, all of these will now transfer. We control Bethesda.
Yeah.
And they could also do is go to EA and make a deal where they're like, hey, look, let us give you like $100 million to just shut up and have every game work. Maybe 10 million. Like,
well, they already spent what, like 80 billion on studio acquisitions. What's another 100?
Like, but even because what you say to EA is we're not asking you to give them like Battlefield 6 for free. That's already going to be compatible. Like, guys, like what was it? What was the heist one? Hardline. Yeah. Like, come on, EA. How many copies of Battlefield Hardline do you plan to sell in 2030? Like, shut up. Like, let us give you one lump sum, and then the entire EA catalog transfers to Helix for a big PR win. Also, we noticed you are made of debt now after the Saudi buyout, so you need this money, baby. Like, that's the sort of deals Microsoft could do, and they have the money to do it. And just look at it as like, how much is Sony going to spend for like the GTA marketing push, hundreds of millions. Like, come on, go to EA and just say, we're giving you $100 million. Shut up about these games. They all run on Helix. Any game coming out runs on Helix. Join Play Anywhere. And as long as you got EA, Ubisoft, and any game that's already Play Anywhere, you probably have 75% of what people, 80, 90%. And then you just work through publisher after publisher. Just have a team of 5 people. They have a couple lawyers on retainer. They're just going through them like, hey, what is this one? Voltaic, or I think, isn't that a big Saints Row? Come on, allow it. Like, and just go step by step and work, even try to get even a lot of the original Xbox games on there. I think you do that. And if this is an initiative they work on, it's going to be in beta supposedly this month, and they just do that for a whole year. By the time Helix is out, it might look like almost every game's transferring. PlayStation has none. And again, why would you choose the one that isn't open and doesn't let you play your old games? How many people bought a PS4 that had a 360, by the way, and an Xbox, and seeing Xbox look pro consumers, more than happy to switch back? How many of those people, by the way, with the PS4 haven't bought a PS5 yet, in other words, and they went from 360 to PS4? I would guess at least 10 million people went from 360 to PS4, have not bought a PS5 yet.
Oh, yeah.
Those could all stack on top of their current market share in series. So I like, this is the sort of move you do. I think Sony's sleeping on this. I don't think they get that it's not about the numbers. It is about emotion, but the emotion isn't irrational. The emotion's there because we don't trust you. And Xbox is making us trust them.
Yeah, I mean, that is just an interesting conversation, is the trust issues in general. It seems like this is bringing up a lot of feelings, like people didn't even questions they didn't even realize they had, given the trust Sony broke with them. And yeah, Microsoft putting some foot forward into actually preserving games is a really big step for them. And I don't know. I wonder how they could needle Sony even more with like the fact that there are still a decent amount of games like stranded on the PS3, like really emphasize like 360 era games getting brought forward.
Which there's some debate on if some of them will, but if you could, like, again, make the deal with, so the Ubisoft ones do, the EA game and all of your exclusives, Gears of War 2, like those do. That's still like pretty cool. And I mean, here was what I would do to just twist the knife maximally. I would say if you own Halo Combat Evolved or Campaign Evolved on the PS5, you can put it in an Xbox Series X and we will give you a license. Because why would we not? We own the license. Sony can't stop us. They have no control over if you put a PS5 disc in a Helix or in a Xbox X, Series X. And this could be a fun thing that goes viral where it's like, if I wanted to do this, I don't have a Series X. I'd be like, I call my friend Greg next time I'm visiting him in Chicago. Hey, can I put this in your Series X for a second and link it to my account? And then it starts a conversation about next gen. This becomes a marketing push between friends talking, behind the scenes. I think they should do it. Just like 3 games. Like, I don't know what Starfield, that they own that. Mm-hmm. Halo, and I don't know what else there would be. Some other game. Like, I guess Outer Worlds. Like, just do those 3 games, and then you can technically say it. You can say it in marketing and campaigns and ads on YouTube. It's like, not only does Sony not let you play your games on PS6, we let you play their games on the Helix. Yeah, I mean, you can play some of your old PS5 games. It's only 3, but come on, like, that is, to be able to say that. That is the sort of shit that I think would force Sony to maybe completely capitulate here.
Yeah, I mean, and given how stupid Sony's been acting, I mean, I don't know how much that would piss Sony off into possibly making other moves that would piss the market off even more, like limiting. I don't think they would ever like limit Call of Duty or something, but I don't know. I could see them not wanting like Xbox like games, Xbox Studio games or whatever, published on Sony platforms anymore if they tried that. But
including Call of Duty, are you?
That would just play negatively more into their perception, I guess.
Yeah. Well, and again, there's a reason. What was it? I think it was the last episode. Oh, no, I think it was the one. It was the Broken Silicon I did with NX Gamer in the middle of July. There's a reason I made the CEO of PlayStation. I made an AI image of him as King George right, the third from Hamilton, because the song "You'll Be Back," that's Sony right now. That's what they're saying to their fans. And it's like, Sony, I think there's probably 10 million PS4 owners who were 360 gamers. Do you not think that could just be 10 million that you could have brought to PS6 that now you can't if you f this up bad? What is that 10 million worth? How much money will that 10 million, those 10 million people make you if they were to come to PS6? I mean, at least multiply that by 300, probably, you know. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, brand loyalty ends up existing because people are happy with a brand to some extent, and it's not like you are tethered at the hip to each other forever. Like, brand loyalty can be broken. Sony is really testing the limits there.
Well, and Sony's making it seem like this is the generation where this is the last one, where everything is now digital. And then this is going to make a lot of people go, well, if the future is all digital, I have to be careful which platform I choose. And the one that doesn't treat me like shit is the one I'll go to that I'll be locked into for the rest of my life.
Well, that's very true.
All right. Well, continuing this conversation with story number 5, the Sony backlash continues. Quoting Lin Tao, Sony CFO, during their latest earnings call, "At this point in time, we are not seeing any impact on our business. But going forward, about the content sales, a large part is already digitized. And therefore, as a result of the discontinuation of discs, we won't see that there will be any negative impact on our business. You'll be back. However, as I already said, the users, the players have attachments, and we have to think about how to respond to that feedback." Quoting now from TechSpot, 2 Mexican lawmakers have filed an antitrust complaint against Sony over the company's controversial plan to stop releasing physical discs by January 2028. So, yes, speaking of Sony, which we just basically were for half of the last story, things aren't getting better for them. We have received first tepid responses of them acknowledging they have an issue, but it still seems like Sony is doubling down while vaguely suggesting they actually might modify something for their anchor customers. Really, there are 2 avenues to force their hand. First is a boycott. If large enough, it could work. Second, though, is legal, which is arguably crucial even if the boycott were to work. Because what happens when a different console company or even just a games publisher makes the same move, pulls their games from some store and tries to take away something you thought you owned? What happens if Sony, say, keeps making discs, but those just carry activation codes they can kill at will? Ultimately, we really need a stronger customer protection to get rid of the current framework of reworkable game licenses and games dependent on online elements to even function. The ultimate goal is not just to have discs back. It is for us to be able to keep playing those discs we already bought on future consoles, own the games we buy, and then for publishers to lose the ability to kill them on a whim. On a final note, that is something friend of the show, Colin Moriarty, is doing. He's meeting with his congressman, apparently this month, to try and force some sort of legislation that saves ownership. You're seeing similar things proposed in other countries and lawsuits as well. All right, Dan, not sure how many episodes we will continue to cover the Sony backlash until something big really happens. But what do you think of the latest developments?
I mean, the weird tepid response from their CFO where they said, "We don't imagine the discontinuation of discs will impact our business." I don't know. It just feels like we're turning on blinders by just ignoring all context, even if like you look at, most sales are digital now. I mean, it materially changes things that I guess haven't been quantified yet, and I think that's pretty obvious. But
yes,
and I do think it's interesting where it's almost like Sony really might have kicked a hornet's nest here where, like I kind of referenced earlier, I think it made a lot of people realize how tenuous a lot of the way they own games in, not just with Sony, through multiple platforms, how tenuous that ownership actually is. And it would be great to see if that actually forced a lot of legislation or regulations through that make ownership more ironclad, no matter how you decided to buy it.
Yeah, I find arrogance or the aloofness of like not doing the bare minimum to keep people on side for things fascinating. Like AMD with the FSR 4.1 thing, Where a similar campaign to what is happening now with PlayStation happened to AMD, where everything they posted on Twitter, YouTube, anything said, screw you, where's FSR4 support on RDNA 3? And they only had to say one thing. They could have just been like, it's coming, we're working on it. And their silence turned it into a PR disaster. And the same thing with Sony. Like, if you care about profit margins, play the long game here. Just let people keep using their PS5 disk drive. Don't change anything. And buy PS7, 8, 2040. No one will have working disk drives anymore. You will have complete control and you will have made more money. Instead, this insanity of just doubling down, because again, I've talked about this so much. They're doing they need to do nothing to give people kind of what they want. They're still going to keep making discs. Again, this is misreported that they're completely decommissioning that factory. They're just removing most of the production, like 80, 90% of it. But if there's going to be mostly digital in the future, 10% production should work fine according to their own numbers. And like, if they just did that, didn't even make a new disk drive, just let you slap on the old one. That's all people want. That costs them nothing to do just that. And in not doing that, they may have a ton of power taken away from them. It's fascinating to me.
Well, yeah, and like even what you brought up I think last Broken Silicon, we recorded this idea of like turning it into, well, the specific idea of like, well, turning it into vinyl, maybe when you buy a disc, it comes with a digital key. That's like how you sundown discs, really.
You just charge a lot more for it. It's limited production. So if you want it, you better pre-order the disc.
Yeah, and maybe even with the PS6, they're not going like it's full limited production runs, but they're like this... The PS6 should be the bridge to all digital, where discs still exist, but we're transitioning your library into all digital now. So like if you buy a disc, and if you're buying a lot of discs, you're probably one of their more loyal customers. Whatever money you might lose in the marginal number of game sales you might lose by them getting like two different versions of the game distributed through digital and disc, whatever. It's probably worth having that goodwill rather than just cratering all goodwill you had for generations. like
a $120 edition that you mandate comes with a booklet, a poster, and some bonus DLC. Like, and it's like, okay, you could go, well, but they could sell two $70 games. That'd be $140. They're losing $20 selling this for $120. So yeah, you also got double the sales, dumbass. I mean, like, come on.
Yeah, and next generation, I don't know if you would need to explicitly announce this, but like, I don't know.
I don't think so. All it's up to the publisher, and it's rare that it's up to the publisher, and it just won't always happen.
Yeah. It's just it's the most ass backwards way to transition to digital. Like, and the floodgates for discs are off, and screw everybody that bought this. Like that rather than an actual transition.
Yeah, I don't know how much more I have to say about this. We've obviously talked this to death. We've discussed it to death in multiple die shrinks as well. In fact, let me plug the latest die shrink is really talking about RDNA 5 and Xbox Helix, the opening they have to win mind share and therefore some market share next year because of Nvidia and Sony's hubris. Join the Patreon, $2 tier to get access to that. But you know what I will still say is I think people need to understand when they're like, oh, this announcement by Sony is them saying they're not doing it. Oh, look, there's a sticker on a box that says that they're ending production. You know, yeah, it's a sticker. They didn't print new boxes.
Yeah.
So what did that really cost them to do that? They're doing everything they can now to signal to investors to not worry. That's why she says it hasn't affected our business, because it's a thing to investors. She didn't say it couldn't. She didn't say it wouldn't. And she would never say that, because what's she going to say? Yeah, we think we might be next gen. Like, what's she going to say? She's going to say what she has to legally. All she legally has to say is if they've been affected yet. They were never going to be affected yet.
Yeah. Oh boy, we really weren't thinking about fiduciary duty when we did this one.
Yeah, like they're never going to say that. What are they legally required to say? They're legally required to say if something's badly affected them yet. During a booming year where their console costs less than the competition, they have no competition, and a bunch of big first parties coming out like Saros and blah, 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 and GTA pre-orders. This is going to be a good year for them financially, no matter what. So that's what they're going to report. And no, if they have some metric behind the scenes where they're like, ooh, if we check the math on this even further, could we find out if it will hurt us? They're not going to do that math because they don't need to do that math legally yet. They're going to just hope this works out and report that things are fine for now. I just think people underestimate what it would mean if people actually, again, it doesn't need to be 100,000 people a day. If just 500 on every post they make on YouTube and Twitter is why I'm not buying this unless you support disc, or Sony, this is a mistake. And I will say this actually too. Tone down the fuck Sony stuff a little. A lot of you are starting to look really unprofessional. Like if you want to say fuck you Sony in the comments of YouTube, I guess, but don't say you to a game dev that's releasing a game only digitally. Yeah. You can say, I don't like your decision and I won't be buying your game, and I think you should support physical. That's good. But to say you to it, you can protest the game dev, make it so their marketing on Sony's platforms feels like a waste of money. Do that. Say, this is bad for consumers. You can even say something that harshly. Don't say them. It makes you look like children, honestly.
Yeah, especially because like with a smaller dev, it is harder to negotiate those deals. So like it even if you disagree, like in principle, the idea of owning digitally, which I don't think is that many people, because I'm guessing most people buy some games digitally. It's more of an effort for a small studio to actually go out of their way to do a physical run. So like it's understandable why they would choose to not do that.
So there's no reason to tell them to go themselves. Again, if you want to make it part of the protest so no one wants to partner with Sony anymore, then tell them I'm not going to buy your game full price because you're working with Sony, and I'm sorry you're collateral damage. You can say that. Just don't look like a child. But yeah, I still think people are underestimating what it means if like 500 people even a day are commenting on everything they make. All of their marketing looks like shit, and they're going into like early 27 where they have to make the final decisions. How much RAM's on the console? How are we going to launch this? What's the marketing strategy going to be? And they still see that their channels are stuffed with this crap, and they're looking down the barrel of multiple legal disputes. They're going to come out and they're going to announce something about ownership, something about playing old games, and something about some sort of support, because it will cost them nothing. And so I just have to say that, because I do get annoyed if people are like, well, they just double down because there's a sticker they can add to a box or something. It's like, guys, they haven't done anything that costs them anything yet. And like, we're never going to know the outcome until like a year from now anyways, too, at most, at the least. Maybe it might even take longer. They need to feel scared right before the PS6 comes out. And we're not there yet. So in other words, keep it up.
And keep it going. Keep the momentum going. Yeah.
And I don't think we know which way this is going to exactly go. Either way, right? I think either way, we don't know exactly which way, but I don't know. I think if near the end of this year, they realize their marketing channels are still screwed. They see Microsoft getting a ton of fanfare, and they go, this costs us nothing. I think they'll give something. And something's better than nothing. Carbon Cry writes in and says, in Broken Silicon 372, Tom said that unlike Steam, Sony is not ready for the all-digital future. This is wildly incorrect. Steam still relies on online verification for most games and only offers playable offline to a point. The only storefront that is actually doing this stuff properly is GOG, which includes fully offline installers, and games don't require being launched from and with the store. Okay, but Carbon Cry, I know you hate Steam, but hear me out. My point is just Steam doesn't have outages like Sony, and they have a plan or an ability for you to share games, and they do let you play offline more reliably than Microsoft or Sony that both have outages. I understand GOG's more pro-consumer, Carbon Cry, but my point is I don't even think Sony's even thought about if you should like anything, and like if this will, like, imagine if there's no discs and they launch their biggest game ever and then PSN's taken down from a week.
Yeah, like divorce the conversation with this in pro-consumer, anti-consumer, right, for a second. Steam has fewer wrinkles, let's just say, right?
Jensen Wang writes in again and says, if Sony is going to be staying in retail and selling codes in boxes, does getting rid of discs actually improve the margin? I mean, I'm sure it's going to drive more sales to PSN, but these terrible retail profits are the same if it's a code in a box or a 10-cent disc in a box. Is this not primarily raising margin via killing used games? Yeah, and I think they did this to do like this is them just scratching their ass and like pulling out a dingleberry and like here's the minimum we can do to claim we're not completely screwing over GameStop. Is we're gonna sell a code in a box that we still have to ship.
Yeah, I know.
Why even have the box? Just ship the code on a thing you scratch off too. It's so dumb.
Well, because I guess having a collectible is what they're trying to preserve beyond that relationship with GameStop, I guess. Like,
yeah, if they like said the code in the box also comes with like a booklet and a poster every time, something, but they're not even doing that. So it's bullshit.
Yeah.
Wackapus writes in and says, discs have been talking about a lot, but something I feel that hasn't been discussed is movies. I primarily game on PC, but I got a PS5 Pro to play their single player games and also to watch movies on it. The PlayStation is my couch media machine. My wife and I have a large collection of childhood DVDs we frequently break out, and having a disc drive would make the PS6 a straight non-starter. I'm willing to bet a number of people also have childhood or family movie collections. Our family does. Yeah, this is also a thing a lot of people are talking about that like feels hard to argue for like from a raw numbers perspective, like how often have I put a Blu-ray on my PS5? Well, more than once actually. But yeah, look, I'm rarely doing that. But at the same time, there is something lame about it. Like there's always something about the PS5 being able to, like, our parents come over with like some film they converted to DVD to look at, like, show us their childhood, and they can put it in the PS5, and it does remove another thing that makes the console feel like something different than a PC. I agree.
Yeah, and I would hope that they at least would do something like, I don't know, a third party like certified sticker for the PS6 going forward. Like if they're really getting lazy with it, like at least have something like that to preserve the ability for it to be like an actual true media box, because PlayStations have been media boxes for, I guess since the PS2 at least. I guess you could say the PS1 because it could also play CDs, but
this is kind of at the core of Sony's identity. They've always been the media box console. The PSP sold like 80 million units because it was before the iPhone, and it was like, oh, I can listen to my music and watch movies on here, and for some reason get a UMD because we're still going to use discs in a handheld. Disc is synonymous with the Sony brand. Even the PSP had discs, and it is weird.
Yeah.
Like there's something to the brand's identity. Again, the opposite should have been done. $120 discs, but they're collector's editions. They come with things. They might even launch a week after the digital version is out, but we will make sure it has the day one patch. And this is our vinyl solution moving forward. And in fact, we expect PS7 to support these discs as well. Just understand some PS7 games might come on 4 discs, but and it's up to the publisher. A lot of publishers like Rockstar, they're not going to do it because, as I put out on Twitter, they don't want to have to print 200 million discs. But there will be people like Elden Ring 2 where they're like, of course we're going to support vinyl of gaming.
Yeah.
Like, and they could have done that, and that's the Sony people like that shit.
Yeah.
I still can't get over the dichotomy of like how this is so out of character too. It's insane to me. This is the shit you expect Xbox to do. And Xbox is coming up with a cool solution, supposedly.
Well, at least it means Xbox seems to be trying now. I hope Sony isn't completely not trying, but they're showing no indication that they are.
If Xbox Helix really nails backwards compatibility and continues to support disc, and again, if they did something hilarious, like you can move your PS5 Halo to Helix, that I will declare just a year or two into her tenure that Asha is already twice as good as Phil Spencer.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
I mean, just already, this is more fun than any of that shit he did. All right.
Pretending being the fun principal. Pretending to like games.
Pretending to be the fun principal. All right. Let us now move on to the final story here with story number 6. This piece of content is brought to you by CDkeyoffer.com. CDkeyoffer.com is really the best place to go to get reasonable pricing on Microsoft software, whether that's Windows 11 operating systems or Office products like the ones that I installed on this Strix Halo laptop that I was testing while I made this ad. You see, I actually use CDkeyoffer.com. I've used them many times. My family members use them. My friends use them when they're building new PCs. And that's because they've been a reliable sponsor of Moore's Law is Dead for years now. And so if you're looking to get, say, a new laptop, or you just finally want to get a legitimate key of one of the latest Office products on your desktop during back to school, use CDkeyoffer.com's offer codes of Broken Silicon to save 25% on all Microsoft products. And then actually you can also use offer code DieShrink to save 3% on everything else on their website, like games as well. Once again, I want to thank CDkeyoffer.com for sponsoring this content, like all the other content that they've sponsored, and for making it easy for me to get a good price on Office on my laptop. TSMC targets 100,000 2-nanometer wafers a month by end of 2026 as the RAM crisis hits Apple, quoting both from Tech Power Up, but they're two different stories from the website. If readers recall, a few days ago, we reported that TSMC has achieved a milestone of making about 20,000 wafers per month on the company's latest 2-nanometer N2 node. However, the company is now rapidly scaling its high-volume manufacturing to produce 100,000 wafers per month by the end of the year, 5 times their current capacity. And they're also, by the way, I think I read, scaling up 3-nanometer to 180,000 wafers a month. TSMC reportedly has a large stockpile, though, of Apple chips sitting around waiting for a DRAM delivery as well from Apple suppliers to integrate it into a complete package using integrated fan-out packaging on package. TSMC is developing a 3D wafer-level fan-out package. This package is designed to hold memory directly above the SoC die, resulting in a smaller PCB design without the LPDDR5X module occupying over 100 millimeters squared of PCB area. So yes, now for a positive story. TSMC's rapid N2 buildup. The way modern foundries work, they can run multiple nodes at once. The balance of production is more about ratios of various tools and how the fab is set up. Right now, it is optimized for M3 and N2. This flexibility makes it possible for TSMC to now scale up N2 significantly faster than before, but it also means they see a lot more N2 demand coming. This, with the CDNA 5 and Venice already shipping to hyperscalers and Apple's A20 production underway, where is this added need for N2 coming from? Well, there's really just Apple and AMD. Nvidia is staying on N3 for Rubin. This all points to AMD securing significant supply for Venice, but also that Ryzen 10,000, or whatever they call it, in Medusa lineups as well. And that implies that AMD thinks memory prices won't stop strong consumer demand next year, whether that means their product will be so good you'll buy the new RAM because of how much faster it is, or that, again, they think RAM prices may improve before the end of next year. Overall, seeing them 5x production of N2 is a strong positive signal for 2027.
Well, yeah, I hope RAM prices start dropping in 2027 or remain stable. I think if they remain stable, there could be a lot of enthusiasm for that going forward without, I guess, things not getting worse anymore and that not being the entire thing.
Like we've at least peaked.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I think about what that means, everybody. Would TSMC have 5 times the capacity at the end of this year compared to the beginning if they thought they wouldn't be able to use it for anything? No, probably. And that goes hand in hand with Samsung and everyone, including Chinese companies, scaling up their capacity as well. So we'll see what happens, but there's two ends of the spectrum here on what's going on with like the supply thing. No data centers are getting built comparatively to what they're supposed to build.
Mm-hmm.
And capacity that was assuming these data centers would get built is massively ramping up still. What is that going to do to prices next year?
Or there's going to be the funniest bag holder of all time with a bunch of parts that can't get put into data centers, I guess would be the third possibility.
Guess they'll have to put them into RDNA 5 graphics cards and PlayStation 6s.
Yeah.
And again, I've never put it that way. Guys, they're 5xing their capacity. Right now, like, let me see. I'm just going to Google this. What percent of data centers in U.S. have been built in 2026 compared to what was forecasted in 2025. Let's see, like 30%. So they're 5xing their capacity to support a third of the has been built, and we're mostly through the year here, people.
Well, there's a lot of resistance to those, especially those like gigantic, absurd projects like the one in Utah that's supposed to be the size of Manhattan.
Yes. Yeah, like so what do you think is going to happen next year when they're like, we have 4 times the RAM capacity we had a few years ago, 5 times the wafer capacity for the actual silicon that the RAM will feed, and we have half the data centers built that we thought we would by now. All of that is extra supply that will need to flow into laptops for Zen 6 and RDNA 5. So I'm just saying, like I'm not saying I'll promise you that will happen, nor when it will, but it seems like we're on this trajectory where that's going to happen at some point.
Yeah.
All right. Let us now move on to the wrap up, which of course are the stories we thought need a mention, but do not need a full conversation. And just say this is a rather girthy wrap up this episode, damn.
Boo.
2 opening Xbox ones here, which look, we spent a lot of time dunking on PlayStation, being critical. I was swearing. My mother would be so disappointed. Not really, she swears. When I like all the time, when we, with what we were talking about with Sony, but we have to admit sometimes here, I think that there are things that there's reasons Sony's won so far. Like, I guess Asha Sharma just announced that you can talk in captures of games. What the f was this? The PS4 era? Like, what is going on? And now they're going to get platinums. Welcome to 2013 Xbox. I was just very critical of Sony. Welcome to 2013 Xbox. I mean, it's just ridiculous. Now this is where they go, oh, achievements were whatever. So copy back the trophy, and then you should copy like whatever.
I do think there's something inherently more satisfying about making it a trophy, even if you want to like argue, well, achievements have specific point values, so they're actually more dynamic. Trophies are more fun.
Yeah, and getting a big reward at the end of getting all of them is half of the reason I got any of the trophies ever. Is like, oh, if I do this one stupid crazy thing, I'll get the big reward. I mean, I don't know. Also, 2 things here. We almost made this a story, but I think Carbon Cry felt we could just throw these in the wrap up here. So 2 things. Intel's licensing out their E-cores to a startup, something they've never really done before. Mm-hmm. And it's like, that tells you they don't maybe think it's a big deal if the startup gets to use their E-cores. And also, a leak's coming out from InstallX64 on Twitter that seems to have a good track record, that the Arctic Wolf E-core for Xeon and Rogue River Forest, by the way, 2 code names I exclusively leaked, that they're just moving them to the high density branding of the P-core one at the time. This is them already pretending E-cores don't exist, it seems like, within a year or 2.
Yeah.
Like, we've already heard they're getting rid of E-cores. I have that Thunderhawk leak that confirms that. But I just think this is funny because now it's like they're not even going to acknowledge E-cores.
I mean, it really does feel like E-cores, like, how when you go to like a fireworks store, they just throw in a bunch of free fireworks. That does seem to be the public perception of them as like those free fireworks they throw.
Like, it's like, no, I want some M80s that can blow my hand off, and you're over here
like doing like this, like when you light,
it's a sparkler.
Or like a really weird specific thing that like spins around in a stupid circle when you light it, and usually doesn't work very well.
Those are kind of fun, to be honest. But I'm actually kind of a fan of those because you can still throw those in the air and they're like, but yeah. So I think this is, and again, I don't even think it's just. You can even make the argument, like, forget evidence that they're getting rid of E-cores. They might just want to stop saying E-core. and
yeah,
I'm someone, by the way, people, that's been very happy to just say, like, I don't know, whatever Meteor like thing is a 16-core CPU, or maybe I don't include the low power cores sometimes until Lunar Lake, but like, I will call Lunar Lake an 8-core, and there would be some people that would say you shouldn't do that, and I'm like, well, the low power cores in Lunar Lake are faster than Zen 3 or 4, or Zen 3 at least, so I'm going to count them actually as full cores. And now if they do this, maybe this will make it easier for them to do that, because they really should be able to claim that, like, Panther Lake is what would it be, like a 16 core? It is. It's even its low power cores are faster than some of the cores that, or is it is 16 cores? Yeah, 16 cores.
It's just the way things went. Really feels like it just turns that the e-cores kind of make it an asterisk for whatever core count they're advertising, though, and I think that's a failure of e-cores, like at least from a perception standpoint, though.
Oh yeah. Lenovo just launched a Strix Halo laptop that will assumably get Gorgon Halo as well. I know this is like whatever, but I think it is notable that there is now finally another OEM besides HP and Asus that is making Strix Halo laptops. So again, I haven't thought this was a big deal, really, because HP, a lot of them would go on sale, sometimes below $2,000. They had a good, really, really good 14-inch laptop, and then Asus had a really good gaming tablet with Strix. And I'm like, I know it's only two options, but it's kind of like the two options you'd actually want. But it is a bit, I just think it's notable that finally Lenovo is doing this as well. And actually, it could be a sign of the future, because I think Medusa Halo will probably be able to drop into the socket. I'd have to double check, but remember, it supports LPDDR5X or LPDDR6, suggesting to me maybe they can put some of those in there. So maybe a sign of things to come in terms of support for Halo products. Jensen Wang writes in and says, will we ever move past the wow, a special form factor, small volume, specialized pre-built computer is really expensive part of the news cycle? This question was inspired by the $5,300 395 plus 128 gigabyte handheld by Ianyo, but it's a story concept that seems to come up all the time since online news proliferated widely. Yeah, I don't know. I get why it's a headline, but at the same time, it's like, yes, this is like a whatever insane screen. Was it liquid cooled maybe too? It was something ridiculous with the cooling. 128 gigabyte handheld. It's like, yeah, I know why it's expensive.
Yeah, I mean, it generates headlines because, I mean, ultimately, I feel like tech outlets do, like, if you're publishing stories every day, there's only so many stories, and it's like, I don't know, like, here's this interesting thing or whatever. I think anything with a lot of novelty in tech is always going to generate headlines. I mean, maybe it's not that valuable, but I don't know. It's like, oh, this is fun to click on and look at. But
Medusa Point has a dummy die. I don't know if did I mention that to you, Dan?
I don't think you did.
Okay. Let me send you this on Facebook. Now, this is going to be the least surprising thing that you've ever seen. We'll have Gerard put this on screen here. But yes, there is a third die there that is a dummy die. And the second I had a couple sources confirm this, I was like, yeah, that doesn't surprise me at all. It always looked kind of goofy to me without a third die there. But I guess there will be. There will be a third die there. I have it confirmed. So just thought I should put that out there. I kind of rushed it out before I got off work on Friday because I'm like, well, I don't want someone else to say this before me. And then they're like, you doesn't even know. Third die. Additionally, more Medusa news. Even more evidence in open source drivers just arrived showing that RDNA 4M will likely be the architecture used for Medusa Point. I think it should be RDNA 5. Obviously, this is over, though, but at least it's not RDNA 3.5 again. I mean, we were all worried because I kept seeing documents that suggested either. And I'm like, what?
I'd be very disappointed if it were 3.5. I'm even a little disappointed that it's 4. So
I guess we'll just see how it performs. But yeah.
Yeah.
Dark Helmet writes in, if Zen 6 Consumer supports 12800 mega transfer memory like Epic does, how much performance do you think the 12-core Zen 6 3D would lose with 6000? I've got 64 gigabytes of it already in my 7950 X3D system that scored from Micro Center for a great deal. Thanks for the link there, Tom. And FS 2024 is still CPU bound at 4K with my 7900 XTX for obvious reasons. I would prefer to keep my RAM. I know historically the X3D chips don't need super high RAM speeds. Yeah, I mean, here's what we don't know is like how much would the faster RAM be needed for bandwidth like versus latency, because you have 16 cores. So going to a 12 core with X3D, there's a chance it's fine. And that really the super fast RAM, this is something I've suspected. Like AMD is going to say, yeah, go ahead, upgrade. Just know that in some scenarios, you will lose performance compared to what you could have if you are going from, like 12 to 24 cores using that much bandwidth, or eventually with Zen 7, 32 cores. But if you have a 12 core with X3D, we don't expect any difference in 99% of scenarios. I think that's probably what we're going to see, but I don't know. Also, keep in mind that Zen 6 moves to bridge dies is significantly better at handling bandwidth and latency. So for all we know, like, it won't be even Zen 7 until you really need the fastest RAM to maximize it, and only if you get the like $2,000 32 core CPU, right? Like, like it could conceivably be $2,000, to be honest. Like that's when, yes, we expect you to buy the newest RAM. Like, yeah. So it's too soon to say, but again, I really wouldn't worry. Yeah, like we haven't even seen like it consistently. I think most of the bottleneck guys isn't that like. It's not just that like they use the same memory controller from Zen 4 to Zen 5. It also just seems like Zen 5 doesn't handle the bandwidth as well as they thought it would. Like, and until we see Zen 6, I really can't answer these questions definitively. But there you go. On server, it will support that fast memory, and that is going to be more than enough to support 32 cores if you do at least have that in 2028. All right. I'll throw this one in first. Framework data breach. So I thought this was worth mentioning because there's a lot of people that like framework in the enthusiast space and therefore in our community. But it seems like a massive hack just happened that got access to tons of people's information. So I guess if you've ever bought from framework, buyer be warned.
Yeah,
or former buyer be warned.
Yeah, makes me. I know. Yeah, it makes me less likely to. Bring them up in the future as like an interesting company if they can't secure their data.
All right, here's one. Dan, EA went private.
Yeah, I saw the.
I'm sure you did.
Yeah.
Any thoughts?
Not good. I don't know what else to say beyond like I really don't like seeing Saudi money get more and more into the gaming industry, so not happy about it.
Yeah, I mean, my answer would just be, would we let a Chinese consortium buy a company that makes like a fourth of our games? Or it's probably not a fourth, but a significant amount. If the answer is no, why would we allow anyone outside the West? And even then you might argue the French shouldn't do it, right? Like it's a real question here. Yeah. Let alone the people, they're like most of the hijackers of 9/11 did this. Like we're from that country. Like there's some concerns here. And the biggest short-term concern is, I think I may have seen Colin Moriarty tweeting about this. Like he's like, he went through the numbers or something. And he's like, oh my God, they funded all of this through debt. Like they have so much money they owe. There might be microtransactions city in every future game.
Yeah, I mean, that's a concern. And just the future viability of like a bunch of companies that are being acquired through Saudi money. Like if their financial position is questionable, like based on the way a lot of Saudi Arabia is trying to expand its economy right now. Like,
yeah, and I guess another thing I'd add to this is short term could be a lot of bullshit. God knows we've seen a lot of studios fall apart, or publishers. Like Ubisoft has almost gone out of business. I think they've been saved by remastering Assassin's Creed Black Flags, to be entirely honest. Who would have thought that would have been the thing that saved
I think you mean, Tom.
Resynced, yes. Having said that, though, long term, guys, people want to work for companies they like working for. And you've seen many studios appear from the former devs of another studio, right? True. And long term, if they run EA into the ground, the people who made Battlefield will make something called Field of Battle. It will be funded by someone else. And I would worry about what I mean, look at like the mega projects, Saudi Arabia, like the line that completely failed, the dumbest idea I've ever seen.
The line's getting built, Tom. Don't besmirch.
No, they announced they gave up, by the way.
Oh, dang it.
They actually announced defeat, I believe. Let me fact check that. Saudi gives up on the line. Let me just make sure. I guess they're still not fully admitting it, but like I've seen articles where they're like behind the scenes, the prince is apparently just like, hey, we're not gonna fucking do it.
I had to admit, like, who thought that was actually going to get built when it was announced is my question. Because they did put some effort into building it. Like,
they paved an enormous amount of space for it.
Yeah, I know. So like somebody must have thought it was actually getting built, and I just want to know.
Well, and what would be wrong with a city where there's one or two train stations that go on one track, and if one station goes down, everyone's for miles, hundreds of miles? Who would have thought that won't work?
Yeah. Who would have thought there would be any issues just beyond that too with
a giant separator of ecology, like an arbitrary mountain range that separates species?
Yeah, no issues.
But yeah, so I mean, look at that going to shit. Like, you never know what's going to happen here. If they really did it's all debt and they don't know what they're doing, they'll just half run EA into the ground and then sell it again and it'll be over. I mean, that's what I would say. But short term, yeah, I don't know. I have a lot of concerns, but I'm not like an expert on it. So what else is there to say besides what we already have here? This is kind of funny here. The Japanese patent office has officially had enough of Nintendo rejecting a patent attached to the Pal World lawsuit with rarely seen sass, apparently, where they're just like, let me see here. Nintendo filed back saying the office it acted extremely inappropriately by citing a copyright infringing game like Pokemon Generations and its rejection of the ball. Yeah, so I think the patent office in Japan is starting to get sick of Nintendo suing everyone.
Fair.
Just thought I'd throw that out there. It's funny. I haven't read into it deeply. All right. Let us now get into the final reader mails. Mark Smith writes in, Tom, have you had a chance to look into Sony's stablecoin currency that they've secured conditional U.S. regulatory approval for from Connectia Trust, a New York-based national trust bank subsidiary capitalized with $40 million to issue and manage a dollar-backed stablecoin targeted for commercial operations through 2027? It looks like the move to go all digital aligns with this, actually. Yahoo Financial reports they want to use this for people to buy items like games or music from their storefronts. So, yeah, I don't know what to think of this, because this is like really, really weird. Have you seen this yet?
I mean, I'm looking at it now. I don't know if I get the idea, I guess, aside from it
I don't either. Why do you need this?
Some weird ass currency that Sony controls that's equivalent to $1, but I don't get.
Let me see here. I'm reading. Well, Sony initially trialed stablecoin concepts in the Polygon network. They did? The company recently launched its own Ethereum layer 2 blockchain called Sonium, which is expected to be the foundation for a broader digital. See, when I see shit like this is when I go, this is why they're making these stupid. It's like, this gives me further evidence they have no clue what they're doing anymore. Sonium?
Yeah, or is this... Or I wonder too, just like how much like centralized control or how much communication is going on at Sony. Like, is this just some like stupid side project somebody is putting off? Because this seems incredibly dumb to me.
So Sony pays significant fees to credit card companies for every digital download, subscription, or in-game purchase. A proprietary stablecoin bypasses these fees, which could potentially save the company hundreds of millions of dollars if they just told people to buy Sonium.
Yeah, so they're trying.
What is this bullshit world we're living in, where like they can get around paying taxes for?
Yeah, I mean, it does just speak more to them trying to turn Sony into, I mean, not Sony, PlayStation into more of a walled garden, though, which
it does.
I do think at a certain point opens them up to some anti-competitive practices.
What do you think is going to happen in 2027? Who's going to control Congress, you dumbass?
Like, well, yeah, with vertical integration all the way up to the point of the currency being used. I don't know. Seems like it's ripe for regulatory scrutiny, or at least I hope it is.
And again, it's all short-term K-shaped economy thinking. And I don't say K-shaped in this like, oh, eat the rich way. I mean, they're just like, oh, well, if the economy's K-shaped, short term, we should only milk those people and build around a walled garden. And they're not thinking, but what happens in 5 years?
Don't worry about 5 years from now. All that matters is this moment.
Like, it's going to be fun to watch. That's for sure. Jamie Witters writes in and says, would it ever make sense for Sony to incorporate Canis or a future equivalent APU directly in their own TVs to expand their PlayStation user base, uniting both ecosystems and reduce reliance on MediaTeks for their future SoCs? Maybe, honestly. Like, I don't think that's the dumbest idea at all.
No, I would think that's cool. Like, it just has a PlayStation app that you can play PlayStation on your TV. I think that's a good idea. I don't know if they would want to do that with all of their TVs, or if that's just like, well, it couldn't really be that much of a premium model, I guess, though, because what it would be like a little bit more expensive, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it has a 135 millimeter square die. That's really small, but then you do have to include the like at least 24 gigabytes of RAM in there, and it's like, okay, well, so 24 gigs of RAM. That I guess you don't need the screen and all this, so I know might add like $300 to the cost, but
for a $2,000 TV or something, it's not that crazy of an expense.
But then, like he says, like, could we then remove another die that cost us $40, and it would have had like, what if this is net $150? Yeah, it might be worth it. In fact, you might even argue you might charge the same price for the TV. When it boots up, have start PlayStation mode, and that's there, just hoping they'll get PS Plus. If 1% of customers even get PlayStation Plus, you've just paid for that add-on, for everyone else or something. So, or even just make it so, like you can just run game trials on there and then try to get people to start playing and then buy a game. It's an interesting idea. Like, this is what the types of possibilities that are opened up when you like make a cost optimized version of a next gen device. Yeah. Techno writes in, do you think Sony will use Canis in the next generation PSVR headset? That way it competes further with the portable headsets. I mean, I think that could be a really cool idea. I just don't know if Sony gives a shit about VR anymore.
I mean, if you made me bet that, like, I just think they're not making PSVR 3, unfortunately.
Also, honestly, what I would pitch is, why do we need it in the headset? Why can't we just have a USB cable plug into the handheld that you put in your pocket? Sure. And like even sell a little harness that puts it on your back or something, and then little baby backpack,
or a Canis fanny pack, Tom. Look like a real.
In fact,
dork.
You could even just make it. Won't it? It's PS5 technically compatible. I mean, I think this shouldn't it be compatible with PSVR 2 already?
Yeah, hopefully. I mean,
so that's what I'm saying is, why would they do that when out of the box, because it has backwards compatibility to PS5 built in? That would tell me that out of the box, this might work with PSVR 2. Actually, then I might actually use a PSVR 2 if I can use it wirelessly anywhere. Ooh, that actually just got me pretty excited, that idea. So, yeah, because PSVR 2 doesn't use any cameras anymore. It's all from the device like a Quest 2. So, no, I don't think they will. I think what they will do is just announce, guess what? This now competes directly with the Quest 2, and see if PSVR 2 sales pick up at all, and then use that as data to decide if they should make a third one.
Yeah, I feel like that's in line with what Sony has done in the past. Like even like not completely going all in with on like VR, even because like they use the Move controllers. I don't know. I think like a trial balloon before they make a PSVR 3 would be necessary for Sony to want to keep going.
And again, it costs them nothing. Along. They could just say, get along modern USB-C cable, plug it into the handheld, put it in a backpack on your back. You're done. And if you already have PSVR 2, it works. Like I think that actually would be really cool.
Yeah, it would be.
Again, I'm now becoming more and more interested in the handheld and not interested in the home console if they really kill disc like this. Jensen Wang writes in, at the end of Patreon's YouTube version of Broken Silicon, you say to like, subscribe, and share. So should I share the unlisted YouTube video? No, Jensen, you should share the Patreon link.
Yes. Come on.
Or the audio Patreon audio link too that you get early and ad free. So again, everybody remember, there is a Patreon you can join where you'll get access to, at this point, we're almost to 200 die shrinks in the full catalog. There's a $1 tier that gets you access to one a month and a back catalog and the ability to ask us questions. We cannot do this without our patrons. So when you subscribe, and I know you will,
do it.
I know you will after I say this, subscribe to Moore's Law Z on YouTube and ring the bell button and comment and share. Subscribe to the Patreon as well. We could use the, there's a ton of content there for you, and we could use the extra funding there so that Dan can afford to fix his background and push those panels together. It looks better. There was one time it fell down, I believe, when we were recording or something.
It was, we were recording a die shrink, but
right. Well, which we'll allow, but help Dan get tape. That's all I'm saying. And yeah, that's it. I did the plug. Any final words?
I don't think so.
All right, everybody. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening, and have a good week, everybody.
Goodbye.
This podcast was brought to you by the YouTube channel and website Moore's Law is Dead. Moore's Law is Dead and Broken Silicon are trademarked by me, the creator, Tom. However, Moore's Law is Dead is much more than just one man. It is a team with Broken Silicon co-hosted by my brother Dan, audio editing by Gerard Cortez, renders done by the industrial designer Jean-Philippe Clermont, and special assistance also provided by Carbon Cry and Kerry No Sugata. Find all of our information at www.mooreslawsdead.com. On the About Support page, in the event you want to hire me for consulting work, or hire Gerard for audio work, Jean-Philippe for industrial design work, or interested in working with Carbon Cry or Kerry No Sugata as well, you can find all of our information there. You can also find our long-term sponsors there and show them some love for helping make this work possible. Additionally, if you are a fan and would like to mail Moore's Law is Dead some love in a letter or with hardware donations, please mail parcels to Moore's Law is Dead, P.O. Box 60632 in Nashville, Tennessee 37206. And speaking of fans, patrons are what makes Moore's Law is Dead content possible. Every month and every day, actually, depending on the person, me, Gerard, Dan, Jean-Philippe, and more are working tirelessly to provide a steady stream of entertaining content and investigative journalism that aims to be as independent as possible from outside influence. Only direct funding from fans can make this possible in the modern era. And so if you have any extra money every month, even just $1 or $2, consider supporting us directly on Patreon. All members of the Moore's Law is Dead Patreon, even down to the $1.28 128-bit tier, get access to a catalog of dozens of essential die shrink episodes and the ability to ask guest questions ahead of Broken Silicon recordings. Additionally, higher tiers get access to the entire catalog of hundreds of episodes of die shrinks, and these include exclusive interviews with game devs and other guests, behind the scenes looks at Moore's Law is Dead leaks, and more niche coverage of subjects that really only the biggest gaming dorks like me and you would care about. They would not profit on YouTube, but they don't have to profit on Patreon. And so if you're interested in that, you can get access to all of that stuff and even more at higher tiers, like ad-free episodes of Broken Silicon, the ability to ask free questions in Loose Ends live streams ahead of recordings, thanks in the credits of videos and podcasts, and access to the Discord with thousands of fans there who would love to discuss gaming hardware with you. I am one of them. And hey, if you cannot afford to support us, please just share Moore's Law is Dead videos and podcasts with friends and family and on social media and Reddit, and give Broken Silicon a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or your preferred podcast app. All of that stuff does help a ton as well. But as I said, this podcast would not be possible without its patrons directly providing predictable and reliable support every month. And so now is the time to give a personal thanks to the greatest of the fans. The following supporters are at the 1024-bit HBM3 or higher supporter levels: Brad Medlin, Z-Jits, Daniel D, Nicholas Buckner, Deke, Aaron Close, Jen Router, MJB1, Daniel Hyde, GZ Ziggy, Jerem Ferrier, Velcome Malev, Jensen Wang, Sarcastro, Chris Rich, Evan Dingle, Hal Booma, Shredbird, Sammy Molas, Chrysanthenos, Tommy, Matthew Cassels, Jonathan, Jake223, Jake Martin, Windwing, Dan M, 1988, Zlicky, Amiable Chief, Gamers Unite, I Should, Ian Clifford, Meat and Pork, Tim Robb, Travis Gooding, Zoot Suit Taylor, Mads, Greg, Michael McGee, Stephen Coates, Mark Mitchell, James Anderson, Mark Raidmaker, Salty Internet Pirate, Henry Zhang, Wesley Sager, Cameron, Michelle Pell, Hexapuma, Teak Autumn, Little Germany, The Forbidden Juice, Windstar, James I. Raider, Denny Nguyen, Brett Jones, Chuck Glidden, Stephen Dick, Mac Davey, Justin Bussell, John Swin, Austin Haggerty, Brian Wright, Joe Foote, Brian Scanlon, Hardland, Slushbar, RB Racer, Manolis, Radkusis, Bing Bong 3, Solarize 80, Kinkum, Kikom, Sprutnik, Smash, Axley, Cornster671, Pinta, Winta, Hugo, Ander, Kiwi, Omega Doge, John Wick, Boomstick, Mr. Tiger, Penguins Love AI, Porcelain Oats, AI Soldier 789, Karim El Masri, Fred Burger, Rye Hill, Chi Bulls, Kevin Kuntz, Jonathan Harris, Kainush, Johnny Trans, Zabir Ahmed, Hunter Temple, Arkeo, RK0, Henry Day, Dudester, John Tiberius, OMG Clover, Served, Chilled, and of course, thank you to Sahara for the music.